My task here is simply to welcome you and every one of you, and also our special guests, including President Kama, who will be launching the book at 6 p.m. Seretse Kama, Ian Seretse Kama, our President of Botswana, UPD, launching the book. Said earlier on, my job is simply to welcome you all. I hope that you have a... You can hear?
Yeah.
What is wrong with the system?
It's low. Something wrong with it.
Huh?
Yeah, it's low. The body system is...
What's happening?
Nothing wrong. Maybe the engineer can adjust this.
What is wrong up here? Hello? Hello?
Still there.
Hello? Hello? Better? Again, welcome to the book launch. I hope you have a splendid evening. For those who want refreshments, on the right, and for the washrooms are in the corner there, on the left. What else do you need? Wawa or Oripo? Otherwise, I'll leave it to the MC. I see there's the lawyers. The lawyers that helped Job here. Coltat, Rusan Nkomo, and Jeremiah Bamu. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Mandaza. I'm honored to be rubbing shoulders with you. Thanks very much to the author, and thank you very much, Job, the subject matter of discussion in the book. I am equally important today, and I don't want you to call me Master of Ceremony. The man who has just left is a professor, and the man who is going to give a keynote address or special guest of honor is His Excellency, the former president of Botswana. So when you go wherever you're going, when you get back and report, tell them that Harrison Nkomo, the director of ceremonies, was there with Professor Ibo Mandaza with President Ian Kama of Botswana, former president of Botswana. Right. We come from a very religious family. Job comes from a religious family. The author comes from the religious family. I've rubbed shoulders with the editor during my tenure in civil society, and I know that Rejoice's heart is very close to the Almighty. Nothing can proceed without the Almighty blessing this occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to call Pastor Shasha to give us a prayer. Over to you, Pastor.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to take up a lot of time. Just say one or two things on the prevailing power of purpose. And this is directed at Honorable Sikhala, and then I'll open in the word of prayer. So the great book says in Isaiah 46, verse 10, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel will stand, and I'll do all my pleasure and purpose. And I'll do all my pleasure and purpose. These are the words of the Most High. And in Proverbs 19, verse 21, the Bible says, many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose for him that will ultimately prevail. So in all the dealings and the interactions of God with humanity, he always deals with us on the basis of purpose. There is no one under the sound of my voice who is not here by reason of God's purpose. Everything in your life is as a result of God's purpose. The purpose of God is imprinted right in the heart of God. And so whenever he deals with you on the basis of what? Purpose. And I'll have maybe 2 or 3 examples. The first time he interacted with Abraham, he said, Abraham, a father of many nations. But at that time, Abraham was childless and his wife was barren. When he interacted with Gideon, he said, Gideon, thou art a mighty man of valor. But Gideon had given up on life. He was actually more or less like a coward and he was in hiding. But God addressed him on the basis of what? Of purpose. We can go on and on. And there are 3 fundamental case studies that actually show the prevailing power of purpose. Case study number 1 is that of Samson. When Samson was conceived in his mother's belly, the angel of the Lord said, this one shall be a deliverer of the Israelites from the hand of the Philistines. And there were so many dictates around his calling. He went the other way. But on the day that he died, the purpose was fulfilled. It was on the day he died, the Bible says that he killed more Philistines than he'd ever killed in his life. And then also the case study must come to pass. And the classic case study of Joseph, which then reminds me of Honorable Sikhala. Joseph's journey starts with a dream. And when he communicates the dream to his brothers, the brothers interpret the dream very accurately. They said, are you going to rule over us? And their first reaction was to throw him in a pit because the dream exposed Joseph at an elevated position. So the brothers, to deal with him, they threw him in a pit so that they look at him from a downward trajectory. And then afterwards, they sold him into slavery, and his life started going southward. And then he was falsely accused, and then he was imprisoned. But all of those things, they were part of God's purpose. The last straw was when he was in prison. And when he was in prison, he was not put in an ordinary prison, but he was put in the prison where Pharaoh's prisoners were, namely the butler and the baker. And I believe that even though it felt so painful, but indirectly he attended the school of diplomacy free of charge, because those guys worked for Potiphar and they taught him how to approach, after they worked for Pharaoh, and they taught him how to approach the king. Later on, he's released and he is promoted. Guess what? It then proves, according to Romans chapter 8:28, that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord. And at the epilogue of Joseph's life, he utters a statement in Genesis 50, verse 20, in my closing. He says, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good to save many people alive as it is this day. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to pray. Supernatural Father, we come before you tonight in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ as we present this program into your hands, standing on the confidence that he that began a good work in Honorable Sikhala, he will bring it unto completion, standing on the confidence that your purpose will stand. You'll do all your pleasure and purpose, and truly all things they work together for good to them that love the Lord. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor. What I get from your Sermon on the Mount is basically that everything does happen for a purpose. We are all here for a purpose. The book was written for a purpose. President Kama could not physically be present here, and he has chosen to address us virtually from Botswana. And I am going to kindly ask David that as I proceed with the program, once he signals that he's ready, you advise me such that we interrupt our program here. He sends his apologies, and I'm told he would really have loved to be here, but he's got some commitment in Botswana. So the next item on our agenda is a poem which is going to be very brief, by a 7-year-old child. And it is by purpose that the 7-year-old child has decided to tell us about what she is made of today. Akatende Kasibanda.
Good evening, audience. All protocol observed. My name is Akatende Kasibanda, and I am going to recite my poem. From Zambezi's mighty waters to Limpopo's ancient streams, we honor footprints in the chains, a tale of dreams, a story woven from threads, struggle, and strife, yet shining bright with hope and hearts that hold on to life. We were stand strong, a symbol of youth and untamed might, a beacon in the darkness, guiding us through the night. The chains that bind us weigh heavy, a burden we must bear. The proof of suffering, of tears, and of scars we collectively share. But in his footprints, we find the strength to rise anew, to face each dawn with courage and to see our journey through. Footprints in the chains, a court unite a stand for a brighter future unfolding hand in hand. Together we walk young and old, our hearts beating as one, breaking chains, healing the land until freedom is won. Footprints in the chains ignite a flame of hope and fire, a beacon in the struggle, inspiring hearts to aspire. Viva Job Sikala! Your legacy will forever stand. Footprints in the chains. This is the life story of Honorable Job Sikala. Thank you.
Another round of applause for Akatendeka. Yeah, well done. Thank you very much. When she was reciting a poem, I asked myself what I was capable of doing at that age.
Good evening, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
think I only managed to do that when I was towards writing my ordinary levels. No, it's great talent. It's great talent. One thing that really touched me is when the subject matter of the book tried to bribe the little girl with money. She remained resolute. She did not forget her recitals. It means she's focused. Another round of applause before I go to our next meeting. Right. I've more often said that I'm one person who doesn't like dismissing other people on the basis of access to information or knowledge. But sadly, I find myself in front of you knowing much more about Job, not because I'm clever, but because I happen to share, to a greater extent, his childhood, early childhood life. A few highlights. A man who walked barefooted to Masema Primary School. A man whose English teacher for Form 4 says he wore shoes which could not be attached to any brand because of the state at which they wear when you go to school. Tattered shorts, tattered shirts. Resolute as he is, he does A level in 1 year. Because it was unprecedented. It's a fact. For those who doubt it, I know it myself. I experienced it. After his ordinary levels, Job went to A level and did A level in 1 year, and managed to pass, score enough points to get a place at the University of Zimbabwe. At the University of Zimbabwe, again, you know, in the village, he started student activism is going to be kicked out of university. So did the gossip in the village. Determined as he was, he finished. In his journey, he became a politician. He met both in his early days as a politician and as a student activist, the next speaker. As if that was not enough, when he qualified as a lawyer, rough out of college, clean as he was, unleashed in the unsuspecting public, he looked for a mentor. He looked for one of the best lawyers in town. And the best lawyer in town said, I can give you a chair. Come, let's get on with it. Over to Tendai BT. Honorable BT, I'm reliably informed that I'm reliably, come through, my brother. I was just advising the audience that I'm reliably informed that now President Kama is online and ready to address us. And no, you still have time, Honorable BT. We have more than 8 minutes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor and a privilege. Firstly, let me acknowledge Job and his family. Let me also acknowledge the author. Let me also acknowledge Prof. Mandaza and thank him for giving us this venue. Let me also acknowledge the elders that are here. I shan't mention their names. I've known Job for 26 years. I first knew Job when we were forming the movement for democratic change. I'd seen him at the University of Zimbabwe during his days of student activism with the likes of Daniel Fortune Molokele, with the likes of the late Lenmo Judah Jongwe. Some of you know we were the forerunners of student activism. I've seen Munyaradz Kwisai at the back. We started throwing stones in the late 80s, leading to 4 October 1989, when the university was closed, leading to the university making us sign what we called the Ngomati Accords, which were later reduced into law, into the University of Zimbabwe Amendment Act. So the likes of Job Sikala, Paul Chimosha, Tino Chinyoka, Brian Kagoro were part of that proud, including Munyaradz Kwisai, including Atam Tambara, were part of that proud legacy of student activism. We called ourselves the voice of the voiceless, and I'm glad that we're still alive, we're still kicking, and we're still in the trenches many years later. When we formed the MDC, Job and others came from the University of Zimbabwe, and I remember Job being deployed in Manicaland to go and campaign. Those days, what would happen is that we didn't have structures, we didn't have people. So you would go into a rural area, see a person, anyone who was just sympathetic to you, you appoint him the chairperson, the secretary, the coordinator. I was in Mashonaland West with the likes of Porina Gwanyanya. Job worked with the late and the great, and may his soul rest in peace, Fidelis George Mashu from Chitungwiza. And his best friend at the time was Tafadzwa Musekiwa. So we then launched the movement on the 11th of September 1999 at Rufaro Stadium.
And a few months later, we were involved in the constitutional referendum of the 10th and 11th of February 2000. And before we knew what was happening, we had beaten ZANU-PF at its own game. We beat ZANU-PF in the constitutional referendum of the 10th and 11th of February 2000. And because it's now history, many of you will not appreciate the courage that the likes of Job Sikala had, the likes of Tafazo Msekiwa. Can you imagine fighting a sophisticated dictatorship with nothing but a slogan and the capacity to sing and the capacity to bully ZANU-PF? We used to go into the mountains, encouraging people. We didn't have many songs. That in the song, you know, this is what we had when we went into the countryside. 26 June 2000. First was the Land Reform Program. As you know, the Land Reform Program started earnestly on the 14th of February 2000, a few days after the constitutional referendum. Dilemma as a party, but before we knew it, we found ourselves in an election on the 26th of June 2000, and before we knew it, we found ourselves in parliament. We actually beat ZANU-PF. There were 120 contested seats. The MDC actually won 57 of those seats, and we would later win 15 additional seats through election petitions that were filed. But before the election petitions could go on appeal, the progressive bench of the Supreme Court was fired and people were appointed, and that was the loss of those appeals. I want to talk about Job Sikala, the parliamentarian. He joined parliament in 2000 as a young boy. He always used to walk with Tafazo Msekiwa. They were boisterous. The two boys. It was a very organized parliament because we were few, so we used to have this tight caucus chaired by the late and great Gibson Sman. May his soul rest in peace. So in that caucus, we would plan, this is what we're going to say on the land, this is what we're going to say on this motion, and we would line up my speakers. And if you read those who study history, please go and read the answers of those periods, because they are rich with research, rich with characters like Paul Tebanyati, a brilliant member of parliament. Job shone in that parliament through resilience, through courage. There are certain things that Tafazo Msekiwa and Job did. I don't want to preempt the book. They visited certain people and it got them into trouble, but you read it in the book. Even the act of visiting those people required a lot of courage. If you were to do it today, Job, you would be accused of fraud, so of treason. So it was very brave to do what they did, Job and King. So it was a very colorful parliament. Some of you recall the adventure resulting in Patrick Chinamasa meeting an accident in parliament, resulting in the arrest of an incarceration of the late Roy Bennett. Job was involved. But there's a sad period, there's a sad history of Job, and which gives the title to the book. It was the continuous arrest of Job, in and out of prison, in and out of prison, in and out of prison. There's one sad period where I felt so pity for Job. Harrison, you remember when he was arrested for having made that announcement that we will remove you, we're going to remove you violently. And they took him to Mashingo prison. At Mashingo, Job's Igaram cell, where they were mentally challenged people in that cell. And these people would come and mess up his cell, and I won't tell you with what, but they would come and mess up his cell. So I remember visiting Job Kumashingo, arid, distraught, and we to give him courage. Job continue. I'm told that President Kama is ready. I'll stop here for now. But I want to say to Job that the book you have written is just the first chapter in your life. I had the privilege of mentoring you after university. I had the privilege of making you admitted at the High Court of Zimbabwe at the lunch we had across. And when I mentored Job, I said to Job, your biggest enemy is yourself. You've got talent, you're brave. So if anyone has to put down Job, it is Job. And I'm glad that Job never put himself down. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tendai. All right, I don't need to waste much of the time because I'm told His Excellency is on standby. I'll take this opportunity to call to the podium Professor Ibo Mandaza to introduce our guest of honor. While Professor Mandaza is making his way, just a few announcements. Those who pre-order their executive copies, they are the ones on this table on my left. And those who want to buy the book, who did not pre-order, right by the entrance, you get the book there. The people presiding will tell you how much you need to pay, and you get your book. The author is there. I mean, the subject matter of the author is there. You can sign the copies for you. Drinks, like Professor Ibumandaza said, they are available. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to Tendai Biti for upping the mood of the evening. But I want to repeat again, thank you, all of you have come in your numbers. This book launch, the largest book launch we've ever had in the last 10 years.
Wow.
But having said that, we're also hoping that the sales will be very high tonight. Please don't leave without a book. I've got my copy already. Yes. Here, Rinpan, the Tenga. Okay. It gives me pleasure now to introduce the guest of honor, who should have been here, but as the MC said, due to a number of logistic problems, he's not been, but he has an address which will be beamed just now. I just wanted to say that, of course, I know Ian Sikhala, not only as the former president of Botswana, but also he's an in-law of mine. My mother-in-law was a Kama. And they're very lucky to have me as a in-law. So, and I was hoping to see Ian Kama this evening. So, hope he's listening, wherever he is. Would have liked to have you here in this big crowd. It was here to greet you. All the same, thanks to technology, we welcome you to make your launch address. Thank you.
Thank you very much and good evening. I hope you can all hear me. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies have already been made for my absence. I would very much like to have been there with you this evening, but I did have another engagement in the southern part of Botswana, where I am currently. It is both an honor and a deeply humbling experience to be before you tonight as a guest at the launch of this book, Footprints in the Chains. It is a book that is far more than a collection of pages. It is a statement of conscience, a testimony of endurance, and a symbol of resistance. I'm also honored to have been asked to have given the foreword. And in my foreword, I say the following. Ian Smith, the former Prime Minister of Rhodesia, once said in an interview after he was no longer Prime Minister that the majority in his country, referring to the black people of Zimbabwe, were better off under him than they were after 1980. Following UDI in 1965, we remember that the majority who wanted their rightful freedom confronted those who became their oppressors. And as a result, they were persecuted and subjected to detention without trial, to torture, and to even being killed. Many Zimbabweans left the country as refugees to go and find a better life, whilst others joined the ranks of the liberation movements to combat a minority elite who ran a rebel regime that sought to control the country for their own benefit. Now it has been 45 years since 1980. The only thing that has changed is the name of the country and that of its leaders. The rest remains the same. There's still the persecution, the illegal detentions, the torture, and the killings. And still many leave the country for the same reasons as before, as a result of a new elite who amass wealth only for their own benefit. Now, there is a new generation of freedom fighters engaged in a struggle to be liberated from the new oppressors in order to regain what their forebears had sacrificed themselves for. Prominent amongst these heroes is a fearless pro-democracy activist who we've been talking about this evening, Job Sikala, who himself has been subjected to some of the worst abuses by the government of Zimbabwe, as he fights to bring about a new order that will change the lives for the better for the long-suffering citizens of his country. When you read this book, which is a comprehensive account of everything you need to know about himself and this failed state, start by reading the appendix to understand exactly how absolutely pathetic the situation is in a country whose potential is tremendous due to the resources it has. Amongst these, the most precious being the human resource. But all have been destroyed and continue to be so in a frenzy of corruption, greed, intolerance, and abuse. Footprints in the Chains gives a personal insight into a beautiful country and people wrecked by a tyrannical regime. Reading it will reveal if what Ian Smith said in that interview was true. That's what I said in my foreword. And I continue. When we speak of Job Sikala, we do not speak merely of a politician or a lawyer. We speak of a man who has chosen to walk a dangerous path in pursuit of justice. We speak of someone who has paid the price, not for wrongdoing, but for refusing to be silent in the face of injustice. This book, Footprints in the Chains, is not fiction. It is a lived experience. It is the voice of a man who was confined, yet never caged, silenced but never voiceless, broken down but never broken. In reading this work, we are invited into the dark cells and the long nights that so many in his country, whether known or forgotten, have endured. But we are also reminded of something powerful, that the human spirit, when grounded in conviction, can rise above even the most brutal of circumstances. So Job Sikala's story is personal. Yes, but it is also profoundly national. His journey reflects a broader Zimbabwean reality. The chains he writes about may be literal in his case, but for many, they are symbolic. chains of fear, chains of economic despair, chains of silence. Tonight, we're not just launching a book, we are launching a mirror that asks us, where do we stand? Are we merely spectators of suffering, or are we agents of change? Job Sikala has walked a hard road, and his footprints have not been erased, nor will they ever be. They are marked in the dust of his nation's history. They will lead us somewhere, perhaps to a Zimbabwe that is freer, more just, and more accountable, but only if we choose to follow them. Footprints in the Chains is not comfortable reading, but it is necessary reading. It challenges, it provokes, and it demands reflection. So to Job Sikala, I say, thank you for your courage. Thank you for your sacrifice, and for reminding us that even in chains, the fight for freedom continues. To everyone there, may this book ignite not only thought, but indeed action. And I thank you and congratulations to you all on being here and supporting Job and everything you're doing to make your country a better place. And we hope that this will be a powerful contribution to the. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. You can be seated. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for those touching words. It looks like you were physically there.
Yeah.
His speech took me to the dungeons of Chikurubi Maximum Prison,
Yeah.
where we would spend almost 8 hours preparing for Job Sikala's trials on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sunday for the impending battle on Monday. It also takes me down to the cells of Rotten Romax's court, very cold as they were, Job in chains, shackled like a common criminal. And you can actually tell that the man has taken time to read the book. For those who are lazy, I'm sure he summarized it for you.
Yeah.
He has summarized it for you. Those were very touching words. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Another round of applause before he goes. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, I had to rearrange my program. You know, when you are the director of ceremonies, you have got unlimited discretion and powers to allocate more time to yourself and less to those who are on the program. That's the beauty of being the master of ceremonies, director of ceremonies. I had started with the speaker we just left. Is the author around? If not, we'll go to the editor, rejoicing when you. Okay, sorry. Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. I was saying the book is a product of the author and the joint effort, this joint effort with the editor who refined it to its current state. And in very few words, Rejoice, you might want to come to the stage and share with us how you managed to pen this 531-page book, which the former president of Botswana has read, and you can tell that I think it was interesting because he read the entire book. Thank you. Over to you, Rejoice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nkomo. As you can see, that this microphone was designed for Ibo Mandaza and yourself. So I'll shift it up a bit. Now, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming to this wonderful occasion. when Munya, this is not the first time that we've done work with Munya. I've edited a number of his books, and I can assure you that most of his books are very eccentric. I call him a political fiction writer. But when he showed me the script, I said, Kunaku Tomunya, isusu toko kuratisi utingoze wati Job angoti yokera. So I said to him, if I see the word yokera in your book, I will send it back to you. Yekera. Oh, yekera. So that's from good to here. I see. Now, Mashingo. So it was really a wonderful experience, ladies and gentlemen, to be involved at the fledgling stage of this book. This book is not about good English. It's not about diction. It's not about well-spaced paragraph, Mr. Ngomo. This book is a spiritual journey of a man who has been able to ride the waves of political hegemony that have been gripping our country for the past 45 years. However, we do not want to waste too much time and tell you what is in this book. But what we can say is that the kind of life that this man has experienced, we don't deserve that kind of treatment in a constitutional democracy, Mr. Ngomo. It's a kind of an era that we hope that we're going to pass very soon. Yes. We did our best parts in trying to interpret the emotional experience and expression of Munya and the subject. But there were some chapters that were touching. I remember when I was, doing Zembe, the chapter on the inside Mugabe's chambers, I had read a bit about the way that citizens in this country are tortured, but I was not prepared to what happened to Job. And I can assure you that when you get to that page, you are going to understand the reason why it is important that we need to have a proper new dispensation where constitutional democracy rules the day. So I hope that you're going to have a beautiful journey in the book, and see you at the bookshop.
Thank you very much, Rejoice. Rejoice had an occasion to work with him extensively when I was in civil society, like I indicated earlier on, a pro-democracy activist and a thorough person. A person whose quest for freedom is beyond measure. I could hear him put a disclaimer. He says it's not about good English, it's not about paragraphing, it's about the history of a person. Anyway, we'll critique you, Rejoice. We will not let you go. We will definitely critique you. You spoke about Igbo's height and my height. There are two things about people of my height. In Africa, if you check, we have presidential height. So you are totally disqualified. Igbo, there's still a window for you. People of my age, there's a chance of you being the president of this country. Equally short people are down to earth. Right? Like I said, Job walked the long road from high school to university, to the political life. A friend of his from politics, I'm told, is here. But for the purpose of making sure that I don't disrupt the author, I'm going to give exactly a minute because your editor has already spoken. The author, I'm told you are here. Yeah, just a minute on how you put up this together before I call Job's friend. Miyarat Sawan. Again, of presidential height.
Thank you. When Honorable Sikhala, when Honorable Sikhala came out of prison, I was amongst those people who were busy mocking him, making fun of him. Then when he was in prison, I had sent my books to his lawyers and they had gone through them. But after some time, I then sat down and I said, but this man, since 1999, we knew about him. We admired him. We followed him. What went wrong? Then one day, my friend on X posted some of my literature. I love writing novels. And then Honorable Sikhala commented. And he actually praised my books. And he said time spent reading this young man's literature is not time wasted. Then an interest was born in me, it was ignited instantly to research about Job Sikhala, to write about Job Sikhala. I never thought he was going to agree to the idea. So I looked for his number, got it from his lawyers, and then I reached out to him. And, Honorable Sikhala said, please come home. Let's sit down on this and then discuss this thing. Then we went together with my chairman Gitza, because I was afraid, his temper. When he says to the mountain, I'm coming over to you. Or when he says, please come here, draw closer to the mountain. And the mountain refuses to come. Honorable Sikhala who approached the mountain. So we went there. And he accepted the idea. And we said, Honorable Sikhala, this book, we are going to use our funds. We're not going to solicit for funds somewhere else. We'll try to source from within our pockets to make sure your project comes to fruition. So we spent nights, more than 3 weeks daily, with Honorable Sikhala. I would want to put a disclaimer, ladies and gentlemen, that when you read Job Sikhala's book and you find some errors, they are not his, they are mine. When you read Honorable Sikhala's book and you find some missing information, I am the one who removed some missing information. Because his book to me ended up becoming more like a Bible, a book that transforms. You see, when I was going through it, a lot of people know the strong Sikhala, but maybe a few of you, maybe none, have seen his tears. I was pained to see Honorable Sikhala crying one night when he was narrating his ordeal, which I then gave a heading, Inside Robert Mugabe's Torture Chambers. And in that chapter, you also see some 40 steps of pain. See, when the height of brutality, when evil is reigning. So I also got a chance to see the temper of Honorable Sikhala. It was, I love the Bible, it was a full cup. Shaken together, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. As he narrated how he fought in 4 major battles that were also documented, advocate, in that book. The Battle of Rushinga Tenof, the Battle of Bikita West, the Battle of Marondera East, and the Battle of Kuwadzana East, where he nearly lost his life. He had an encounter series with the bullets. So you see, putting together this book was the hardest of my entire writing and literary career. I also reached out to his friends and they were confirming. We spent sleepless nights. There was a time when I got so much afraid of writing about Honorable Sikhala, such that I had to leave home. I said, I can't continue. I'm brave. Those who know me, they know I'm brave. Just like he's now my brother. But I also spent sleepless nights, went out, and the book is finally out. Can you just clap hands for Honorable Sikhala? I think everything is in that particular book. Thank you, my leader, for that time. I would have wanted 10 or 20 minutes.
Thank you very much. Your attire reminds me of a great politician from Southern Africa, the late Samora Moses Machel. I said initially that Job Sikhala made friends from childhood, university, and in politics, in the League of Fraternity. I remember the namesake of the next speaker, very charismatic. When he interacted with the Queen continuously called him Nelson. And Nelson Mandela said, I might as well call you Elizabeth, which was unheard of to call the Queen by her name. Ladies and gentlemen, the next speaker is Job's childhood friend. Live plus or minus 3 to 4 kilometers apart in the village. Met in politics. Nelson Chamisa. Are you also of presidential height or you require something? You are not of presidential height. Over to you, Nelson. I call him Nelson because I knew him before he wore his first shoe.
First of all, I just want to take this opportunity to salute my brother, Job Sikala. Job is not a man I know from politics. Job is a man I know personally.
Yes. Thank you.
I know Job as a courageous man. I know Job as a man who loves his country. I know Job as a man who is very passionate about freedom, justice, and constitutionalism. I know Job as a man who loves controversy. I know that my brother is pushed and moved by controversy. But I'm here to appreciate Honorable Job Sikala, my scholar. Thank you very much, my guru, here present. We honor you. You know, she's such a courageous woman.
Thank you.
We often salute the politicians we see in the corridors and aisles of politics. But there are heroes and heroines behind the children we have and the wives we have. My scholar, thank you very much. I know that during the incarceration and all other circumstances, those days, nana msundire, matombo achinaya mumba, Job achiri mufana achipotsa aurawa. Those are the days.
Yes.
Naona nichisvika ndanzwa mukoma tendai vachitaura panapa. Vachiimba kudhara when we were young. We started these things. I don't know kana makanyora nyaya yevasikala. That you, yourself, Jongwe, Tafadzwa, and myself were invited by President Tsvangirai at Chester House to say, you young people, you don't need to contest in the parliamentary elections.
All right.
Because you are still too young.
Yeah.
No. And we're all quiet. The machines were fun. Said, yes, we have heard you, Mr. President. We left that room. And as we were leaving that room, Mgoba Job Sikala got no pengo. Then, of course, Jongwe, all of them, you know, made the resolution that we're going to go to Parliament. We are contesting, whether he likes it or not. And I said, me, I will not contest it. I will not come. But it was not about that. Those are episodes. I want to salute you, my brother. I had to come. to support this initiative. I know that in politics, views and opinions differ. That's why we are there. The more the merrier. We are there because we must have different opinions and celebrate them. In fact, that is what we've been fighting for. You know, I was laughing as I was seated there to say, hey, we have really grown old. You know, we used to be too radical. Now, when I look at it now, we used to sing, "Kachembere ndi Mugabe aka. Kachembere ndi Mugabe aparaza musha." You know, we were mocking old age. Little did we know that we are almost getting there. And before you know it, we are now ancestors. You know, so brothers, and thank you. You know, I came here just to support. I didn't know that I was going to be giving a speech, but I've come here. My speech is my presence. To support the initiative so that we write our stories.
Thank you.
So that we record our encounters. And thank you, Savan. Thank you, Rejoice, all those who supported the project. At the end of the day, Zimbabwe is going to be great because of our diversity, because of our democracy and the variety of voices that must, you know, take shape. Now, we differed with him to the last number, but we would have wanted to see his book. But he went without writing even a pamphlet. You know, that is tragic. Would have wanted to know what his ideas were, what motivated his difference with us. But I'm glad. May God bless you. May God bless you, Sikhala. And may this book be a book that enriches not just our democracy, but also our struggles for freedom. I want to thank the speech, President Kama. You know, it's a very powerful speech. And I think it's a speech that tells you that we are not alone in this struggle. There's solidarity to our struggle. There's solidarity to our fights. And there's solidarity to our journey. But tell you what, no night is forever. Morning is coming. There shall be freedom in Zimbabwe. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Advocate Nelson Chamisa, for those words. These guys used to be what we call in church, you know, RCZ, reform church in Zimbabwe. That's where you started, eh? Nelson? You started with RCZ, eh?
Yes.
Yes. Church, same assembly. They would meet as young boys. But hey, there's one thing. Before I hand over to the next speaker. Job, I want you to listen to this. During the liberation struggle, there was a relative of ours who was very educated by Rhodesian standards for black people. He was a headmaster, a very well-spoken guy who inspired us. In fact, in the village, he had a nickname called lawyer. He was a lawyer. He inspired some of us to be lawyers because he spoke unrefined English. No, sorry, he spoke refined English. I wanted to say undiluted. So you guys, the struggle started in 1999. We are now in 2025, and freedom is not there. So this guy, he went to a Pungwe. He went to a Pungwe. And the freedom fighters addressed the Pungwe. And they asked if there was anyone with a question. And then in English, he said, I'll use English for those who do not understand Shona. And then he said, here, you guys, when is your war going to come to an end? You have finished all our chickens here. In Shona, anyway, I used to call them the trio. Nelson, the late Mojo Way, Charlton Wende, in Sinasmi. They met together. This is the problem of launching a book. Charlton, our next speaker, Wende, the Honorable MP was on the list. And for Parliamentary Portfolio Committee Chairperson, Budget and Finance.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies. Nyango hazo party yakavhara, but we still have protocol. Once the president has spoken, but I will just be as brief as possible. I came here to honor my brother, Job Sikala. I met him for the first time in 1995, when we were still very young. I know everyone has spoken about how brave Job Sikala is, but to me, I will speak about how selfless Job Sikala is and how we consolidated our friendship. When I attempted to go to Parliament for the first time, that was in 2002, there was a by-election in Zengeza. And because we were friends with Msekio, when he went, he said, no, you must come, and because I was staying also in Dambuza, you must come and be MP here. So I went there. The people preferred me among other candidates, but that time I had no money, you know. And what Nkoma Job did one day, because I was almost chickening out, because that time you need a lot of money. There was just a small boy who was starting up. So he came with bags of money. You remember that? 3 bags of money. And he said, yeah, Marie, it was a lot of money. I think by Zimbabwe, by current standards. Yeah, he had sold this car, maybe 20,000 or so. You know, I was so tired. But later on, I ended up even betraying his trust, because perhaps of peace politics. And I was called, which was normal. He called me, explained to me, just like what he told them. And I also, like what President Chamisa did, couldn't say no. But I couldn't face Sikala and watch some motorman. No, you just say. No, but I go Pumirana. I think what Chamisa also contributed to that Chama Namibia.
All right.
So I then went to Namibia. I didn't even tell Job. So 2 days later, I had the courage to call him and apologize. You know, that's when they were the MDC that time was very popular. And we lost our first by-election in Zengeza in 2022. So that's how Job is. Even in Kwazana, because I'm also a member of Parliament for Kwazana, I was there for the battle of Kwazana together with President Chamisa and Vascal. He left his constituents to come to Chamisa. He was prevented again for the second time. So when Lenmo Jongwe died, the people of Kwazana demanded that he must be the candidate. Then the Watatanga campaign, only from Dara to say, no. But that time he didn't say to he said, I think he needed him to remain at the party level. But this time, Tagaso fully no, to so campaign I tried to say, authority part. The president never went there. So Tagango Tiba, Shamar, we didn't put out Sikala, Box and Marys. I was the campaign manager and the other friends who came. This was food to the Waru Tower. You need to get out of the Sikala to go now, like Manya and Banning dying. So when I got to 70, President Chamisa, because I wanted to follow Sikala. Then you put me, Takara Bata, was saying, but then later on, the Bata's bad one, myself and him, nemapurisa zvanzi the candidate and the manager tabatwa paya inini ndaona marovero aitwa because we ended up losing one of the MP kwaseke because akarohwa zvakaipa ipapo and he later on passed on. So ndaona marovero aitwa ndikati inini panapa handisida kutipedza nguva saka vaitsvaka futi because vambaridzwa futi ndikachinzi vakomana mune futi imimi. So vachamisa as the candidate was trying to be brave achitukana nemapurisa ndikati murume uyu ada kuti paradzisa panapa nemapurisa. So I went to Mutara because tange tapa muna Bulawayo and I volunteered kuti vakomana isi hatina futi ndakabvisa bhurugwa rangu rese kudai then mapurisa akabva ati no please you can go hamuna futi. But that's how brave Job is. He left St. Mary's, came to help also a brother and so forth. But like I said, I came a bit late and the Kadawakuru Ataura at but I just want to thank also my guru for studying with the Job. Job munhu wemusikandwa mazuva ekuzinasu taiti takakonzeresa meeting taizonosangana mutoilet achiputa fodya kuti wende takonzeresa ka.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Charlton, gentlemen, I think if you have been close to these politicians, there are times when they are extremely ruthless to one another. I remember through Job, I became close to Charlton. Charlton's trigger on Twitter. I had to defend him a couple of times. Right. So he called me and he told me that he was coming from Namibia. I wanted me to pick him up from the airport. He had done something in President Tsvangira was not happy with him. We got there, he had obviously considered with our African culture. You bring presents to the hosts, the elderly. He gets there, 3 minutes. Tsvangira sits him down. Because there was a lot of war on Twitter. Some woman had been assaulted. And I think when they sang praise about it, and there was a lot of noise from the women community. Then he was Deputy Treasurer General of the party. And Tsvangira says, Wende, you are here. How is it? He says, no, the cyberspace is what, Your Excellency, your President. People attacking me left and right and center. He says, I've actually called you to add more misery to your life. Because you have caused a lot of noise, I'm going to suspend you now. I know you've got a small constituency, go and deal with it, but I'm suspending you over and above the pain that you're enduring from cyberspace. But anyway, that's Charlton Wende for you. For those who are just coming in and those who have pre-ordered the executive copies, they are the ones that are lined up on my immediate left. Please go and get your copy for yourself. The author is there, you sign, and then just by the entrance, there is a copy. Right. I'm going also to sign. Can I have the copy and pen, please? Can I have the pen, please? Prof, can I briefly call you to the podium for a small exercise? I want you to sign this book, which has been signed by all Job's friends, Job himself, the author, the editor, the political friends. I'll kindly ask you to come to the podium and auction it. After, of course, after appending your signature to us.
I know it's like
Hello? Prof, can I kindly call you to the podium for a minute? I want you to auction the book that has been signed by all friends of Job, which I will kindly ask you to append your signature as well. I'm told you were a sprinter during your early days at school. I'm told you were a sprinter.
Auction starts. Start on 500. There must be Shigananda Gunova. 500. You can resell this book for 5,000 tomorrow. 500. 500. 500. Aramba. Okay, let's go down to 200. You see a hand there? 200. You? 200. 250. Zebe, did you put your hand up? 250. In the corner there. 250. 250. Okay then. 200 it is. Please.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much. I shall treasure it for good. And please, don't come and ask for it from my library. Those who know me know that I keep a very, very big library. Among his Chief Job's friends was Daniel Monokela. Is he with us? Daniel? If not, there's Mike Kareni Kore. That must be a political friend. She's not there. If she's not, then we move to another friend. Gladys Latwal. She's not there. Jacob Bungari Fume. And a lot of applause for him when he's gone.
Chikugona kuimba iva kamba iva iva utari iva 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 sekamba utari. Aiwa, maita zvenyu. Thank you very much. I appreciate the invite for me to speak at this momentous occasion. To Job Sikala, my friends, I want to say congratulations and well done for launching this book. And to all of you who came here to witness this very important occasion, I appreciate. Yes, I am Job Sikala's friend. We were together way back at the University of Zimbabwe in the late 90s, early 2000s. But we did not develop a very strong friendship and relationship back then. I admired him a lot. He was very courageous and would speak very well to make sure that after his speech, Taikuti Kudzunza, you would look for a stone to throw at the police. But what really brought me very close to him is that when we left the university, I continued to work as a political activist and political leader, as well as an anti-corruption activist. So we interacted and started doing a lot together. Then in 2020, I called for anti-corruption demonstrations in the country. The road to a political career in this country is fraught with a lot of things, a lot of dangers. One of the things you have to fight are captured institutions. Institutions that would arrest you for a cleanup campaign in Mbare. I mean, I would tell you, I was reflecting a few days ago that I was arrested for cleaning up garbage in Mbare. You know, we've been arrested for almost anything that you can imagine or think of. And when we called for anti-corruption demonstrations, Brother Job was one of the first people to say to me, I will support you on this. And of course, our other friend, Hopewell Chingono. Then what happened is, one morning, Job called me and said, "Urikuti mwana wa mai, ndikandiri kuba zvakanzi iwe unosungwa kuri kuuya mapurisa ikoko." I hope he captured it. And of course, I did not run away. There was just no time for me to do that. And then I got arrested by 12 armed men. And then Job was nowhere to be seen. You will see it in the book. When I got to the police station, the lawyers were coming and everybody was coming. And then I actually thought I was abducted to my death, because 2 days before I was told by text message that you will be killed in the next 24 hours, or if you are lucky, you will be arrested. And I was not even sure what this text message meant. And then the next day when they took me, I thought maybe they would go and kill me. The first relief I got for that day was when Hopewell walked also into that police station, arrested and in shackles. Then I was so relieved and I smiled for the first time. I said, my goodness, at least I have somebody to talk to. And then for months, Job was nowhere to be seen. And then when Sergeant first at Harare Central, at Harare Remand, and then we went to Chikurupi. We were literally waiting for him to come. And then one afternoon he came. We were so great to see him. We welcomed him and said, "Man, welcome to Chikurupi Maximum. We should walk you through the places." But one of the things that happened is when Job came to prison then, Hopewell and I were not as aggressive towards prison officers and so on. But when Job came, all that changed. Job would almost defy any order given by the prison officers. And then, of course, we're a happy team debating and so on. I think it was then that the ideas of him writing a book, putting a book together came to be. And I would tell you that the days were so dark and bad. Prison days are not easy, honestly. Prison conditions are the worst conditions that a man can ever live. I almost would think that this is a rehearsal to live in hell if you were to go to hell. Thank God we would not go to hell. But the conditions in our prisons are not different from hell. But one of the things that has happened behind those bars is that we've formed solid friendships. We've rebuilt our resolve. Books have been written. And we've also decided and agreed that as friends and as colleagues, we'll continue to fight until Zimbabwe becomes a better place. That has also been because of staying behind bars for no crime committed. And Job has been arrested more than 70 times. Man, 70 times. And then all the 70 times he's acquitted. That's crazy. Until, of course, recently, it is a man of a different color and stature. You know, you are convicted at the magistrate's court no matter what. Only to be set free later, maybe at the High Court. But all that has not diminished the man's resolve to keep fighting. Well done, my brother. I appreciate. You know, he's such a good example. When we were in prison, we would never despair. We said, "You will never see our tears." And he was leading us to make sure that we remained strong and determined to keep fighting. Thank you so much. Even when you were back in prison, all the other times we were not there, we would visit you and we would see him strong. He is such an example of a man to follow. And we know with men like him and many others who fight, we can change Zimbabwe to be a better place. So well done, my brother. May the good Lord bless you. The fight is not in vain. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Jacob. I first met Jacob at university. We were in the same stream, but belonging to different faculties. I saw Jacob after his conviction in the Marxist court, and I think he spent some considerable amount of time behind bars. So after his acquittal in the High Court, he was liberated. He came to give Job solidarity when Job was undergoing trial. And when the Marxist who was trying Job walked in, I said to Gareth, hey, that's the Marxist who must bow down. He refused. He said, I don't bow down to a person whose judgment has just been overturned by the High Court. That's how it all is. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm reliably informed that there is a double cab Isuzu with no number plate, white double cab Isuzu. Can you go and attend to it? You are blocking someone who wants to leave. The books are still there. Those who pre-ordered where Jacob is, the books are available. Go and be attended to. The man I'm going to call to the podium is a man who taught me at university, whose Marxist theories I disagree with, because they make me poor. It's because the business in this country is low. I tried some hustle. I opened a barber shop. I asked the man to come and support my business. He has refused. Dr. Myanz Bisai.
Shinga mshandi shinga. Thank you, MC. Nanzwa MC watotaura kuti ideology makes you poor. Naona Prof Ibo vachitengesa bhuku vatanga $500 vazodzimara vakasvika $200. And as he was passing by, ndati kuna Ibo waona kuti pano hapana zviganandaka. I know it's so I'm happy. So for me, actually, I'm happy because I've now got 5,000, 10,000 that I've seen at other launches and Job Sikala. It shows good when I knew you and many comrades who are no longer young men, but who are now men that I've seen speak here, that I've seen here. You still remain in that situation that when we met you, I met Job in 1997 when he was a student. I saw Charlton when he was also a student. I saw Nelson was here. He was also a student. And Jacob, I've seen them, Jacob and others. Most of these were actually our members in the ISO, in the International Socialist Organization. I see Job never joined the ISO. I see despite that, so I want to greet everyone and salute everyone who's here. Thank you, comrades, for coming. It fills our hearts to still see, as Ibo says, this is the biggest launch we've had here. A couple of years we had Atham Tambara's book launch here, but we're just in this side room. So it fills our heart to the spirit for fighting tyranny, oppression, and exploitation is still in our country, and that we can still fight. So that spirit must be kept. And the Job in many ways represents that. As I've already said, I knew him as a student at the university.
vari Muzinasu, Nana Shelton, and others, fighting big battles. In the ISO at that time, we would go and fight Belvedere College, and would go and fight together. Process yakazoita lead to formation here MDC. And I want to appreciate Job Sikala, the author, Mnyara Sazita, editor, for actually putting down this history, a very important part of our history, which may help and inspire the present generation. Shamisa has already said, Madara, and also to serve my ancestor. So for the young ones, through. Tendai Biti spoke first. And in many ways, Tendai is the godfather of radical left student politics in this country. And we want to respect him for the role that he played in nurturing us. And in many ways, he's also the one who recruited myself and others into the ISO as a founding member. But what is represented by that student movement, Notangane period, Yanatendai Biti from about 86, 87, 88 at the University of Zimbabwe. It was the first movement Yekwita take on the regime, yes, ZANU-PF and its autocracy. So it was the student movement that was the first to move and say, this is not what thousands died for. And at that time, there was only one university, the University of Zimbabwe. And they were at the forefront of this struggle that we then joined 87, 88, Wanam Tambara, and ourselves and our generation. And then subsequent to us, you then have the younger generation, Yana Job Sikala, Vanalen Mojongwe, Vana Wende, becoming a national movement now. And it has represented one key part of that movement that has fought dictatorship in this country. Although we started, eventually my workers, Akazoita joined. The workers were slow in moving, but they eventually joined the movement after ISAP had caused much suffering, much poverty in the 90s. And what we then had at the end of 90s, which is the period that Vana Sikhala, Vana Wende, Vana Lenmo Jongwe come in, was a unity of a movement of the students who had started coming together with the working class. And it is that movement that built the most powerful political movement that this country has seen since 1980. Yes. The movement that was able to take on and defeat Mugabe. Nelson spoke about the courage and bravery of this young generation who were told you cannot run, but they said we would run. We can also speak of other examples. Tendai, if he's still here, we will remember in February 2000 when Chagirai, Washman, Nuwe, and others had said they were going to accept the Constitutional Commission. I remember at that time, Lenmo Jongwe, Job Sikala, with Tendai Biti, we then went into the Alieko Anglican. And they said, we will not accept this. We shall demand a vote no in this referendum. And we plotted and we came out. Vana Sikala, Vana Lenmo were at the forefront, together, supported by ourselves. And that meeting resolved that we were going to go for a vote no, which was a historic movement. It was a historic movement because that vote no was the first time that Mugabe was defeated and created the basis of the movement that then came to the elections. So the life of Sikala is a great life, a courage, history of our young people of that age. Let me conclude. In my final words, Job, I remember last time Sangana Kota Chiti, he has now been rereading learning. And that is rereading of learning. What is to be done? That is what he cited. And he says that this struggle can only move forward if it is a struggle that addresses the concerns of the poor people of this country. It cannot be a struggle for democracy alone. It must be a struggle of unity against both political and economic exploitation. Yes. And I say to Job, footprints in the chains. He is called Weaver. The weaver that is named after was unable to see the fulfillment of his dream. But despite these 70 arrests, we were with his supporters, Mainini, we support you, we salute you for the role that you have played in supporting Weaver.
We must dedicate ourselves to ensure that these footprints and chains that we have had cannot be for nothing.
Yes.
It must be our generation and the generation of the young people that I see here that must break the chains to ensure full and final liberation of our society, of working people, uniting the poor, and so forth. So well done, Sikhala.
Yes.
The struggle is on. Now I'm Dara. We remain united. And thank you for putting this down as a record to inspire the young people of this country, many that I see here today. Zimbabwe shall be free. Zigananda shall be defeated. Oppression shall be defeated. Shinga msani shinga. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Nyarad Grisai, in rage wage. I think if you support my barber shop, you become more fluent than you are. When we talk about students, there was one student who was in this was in the council. He was in Sinasi. So the week Sikhala dress as take their mass na Mike. I remember when we were first year students. Right. So I'm saying the previous speaker, Dr. Bisai, spoke about students activism. He mentioned a couple of guys, and one of the people that he mentioned was on my program. But when I called him, he was not in. I'm told now Daniel Molokela is in the room. Can you come over and briefly share your experiences?
We wasane, we wasane. Ahoy! Ahoy! Sorry for coming late, but they say it's better late than never. I'll just say one or two words to just spice up the occasion. I think I'm one of the best people who are qualified to write a book about Job, but I don't know whether I'll ever have the time to write the book because I've already made commitments to write books that I have not finished. I've actually been trying to write a book about Lenmo Jongwe for almost 20 years now, so I can't promise to write a book about Job, but I've got too many stories. I think let me start by saying congratulations to my brother. I've got a lot of brothers politically. I know a lot of people don't mention my name, but that's And then after he's finished telling a story, students would give him a nickname. So Job might not remember, but Job, he once gave a speech about Ambassador Tariq Aziz. And students started to call you Tariq Aziz for some months. And then he once gave a speech about the one for Iraq. What is this? Didier Raka in Madagascar. Job was also once called along that line. So when Ken Saro-Wiwa was executed after the Sani Abacha debacle go to Nigeria, he also said a story about what Ken Saro-Wiwa was executed to this day. In fact, I remember when he was elected as Secretary General, to just say we were, the whole university would come to a standstill because the first years of that year, they never knew him as Job Sikala. By the time they arrived, he was now known as we were. So I remember, maybe he forgets the day, but in New Complex 5 in 1998, when Job Sikala was said to be down and out politically, I spoke to him when he was mobilizing some youth at New Complex 5, some first years. I don't know whether he remembers that day. And I said, Job, you are on the rise. And I'm sure on that evening, he was not sure whether I was saying it to impress him or I was convinced. But to be honest with you, I'm a very good political analyst. And I had already seen that Job Sikala was developing a momentum. And the first years were really impressed by his mobilization. So he started a momentum that year, that night, that led him to become the Secretary General of the University of Zimbabwe Students' Union. The other thing I wanted to talk about, Job, this one I normally try to talk about it in public, but I try not to say it in detail. In 1998, Job and I were suspended from the University of Zimbabwe. But during that period, we had got an opportunity to travel to Makerere University. And I traveled with Job Sikala to Uganda. We went to Nairobi. That's where we met Moses Oburu, who is now a lifelong friend in Kenya. So it is at Nairobi University. But from there, we proceeded to Uganda. When we got to Entebbe at the international airport, because we're holding Zimbabwean passports, the intelligence sort of diverted us from other passengers and were detained. I think we're detained for about 2 to 3 hours. Yes. And during that interview, they were suspecting us to be agents of Robert Mugabe, which was very strange because the university had been closed because we had done a demonstration on June 1 and June 2, which says Mugabe must go. And we'd been suspended because we tried to evict Mugabe from State House. So I remember that interview, and I always reflect about it. When they were talking about Joseph, what's the father, Laurent Kabila. Job Sikala has got away with it. He says, who is Laurent Kabila? He's just a big toad. You know, if you imagine what a toad looks like and what Kabila used to look like. You know, he's like a big toad. And then Job Sikala was talking about the DRC war, that we were very clear that we supported what Mugabe, he must not go to the DRC, and we were strongly against that. And we got exposed to the system there. We ended up being asked to talk to the intelligence. I don't want to go deeper on that one, but I will not forget what happened in Makerere. I'll say it maybe in a book one day. Last but not least, Job Sikala from university, he has always been a man of passion in terms of loving people, because some people think he can be very emotional, but what I learned from UZ is that he loved people. Some of you know UZ Kwagune place in the new complex, the new hall, where the elite students used to stay. And Job Sikala had the room there. Yeah, he was in the low density suburb. But the neighbors never liked Job Sikala, because if you went to his new room, you will find a lot of squatters. Wanamambo Jordan and all those kind of people. It was like a Mbare, I feel, a new complex, a new hall. And Job Sikala was never elite. And it really sticks, because I've been to his house in Chitungisa, in St. Mary's. And I look at him and I say, if he had a choice, he would be living somewhere, maybe in Borodale Brooks or something like that. But Job has always tried to be among the people and express his love for the people. and it has been his guiding principle. He's a person who is very loyal to his friends, and he supports people, and he sacrifices a lot, and he inspires me in that concept. Some of you don't know how much he sacrificed over the years just to support people around him and to affirm people. He tries not to be jealous. He struggles with jealous, actually. He's a very generous man. He tries his best to support people. Last but not least, Job, whatever God has placed in your heart, please just do it. Because we don't know your potential. At UZ, some people try to stop you, and you are unstoppable. Remember what you said to Professor Graham Hill. You met him when you were suspended with the Tavaza at Unique's Hotel. And Graham, you tried to greet you. And then you addressed students and said, I snapped him. And students were like, what? Yeah, but that's Job for you. So because of time, I'll stop here. Those who've been Bulawayo, I think I'll be there, and I'll share some stories that are more personal than this. But thank you so much.
Don't go away. Don't go away. Don't go away. Can you hear me? Did you listen to him and listen to him carefully?
Yeah.
This man suppressed some information. When he first met Job, he was Secretary General. And he said because of some unexplained events, he became acting president. How did that happen?
Okay, I will not say that today. The president is here. The president is here, so please, excuse me.
I'll tell you they did a coup. Wakaita coup, Arma. They did a coup. Right. I heard him say Ahoy. What does Ahoy mean?
Ahoy.
Ahoy, what does it mean?
Ahoy.
I remember one of the student leaders who had caused a lot of chaos at the university, and he was being prosecuted, undergoing disciplinary proceedings. The man asked him, what did you mean by Ahoy? He said, Ahoy is a revolutionary greeting. And the proctor said, what revolution were you anticipating at a learning institution? You know the man. Ladies and gentlemen, my next speaker, I want to finish off with students. I think we've had enough of political dosage tonight. This man is a bad man in our clan. He is the one who created this troublesome boy. He is the one who introduced him to politics at an early stage of his life. And each and every time I see him, I say, Marare, go, let God be with you. When Job was still at secondary school, his teacher writes about his political activism and his association with Zoom at Form 4. And the man responsible for that is in this room. This man is no other than Dr. Ryan. Can you come through? Director of Ceremony, Advocate Harrison Nkomo. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
All protocol observed for the sake of time. Thank you very much for being here. My first task is to exhibit evidence of what I saw. On the 2nd of January of 2024, I visited Advocate Job Sikala at Chubi Maximum Prison Dungeon. Yes. What I saw when I entered the 3 gates, I saw him about 50 meters away. You would know his greetings. Oh, Dr. Zempe, Dr. Zempe. I said, oh, Advocate Sikala. You know, we called each other until I reached the gauze wire there. I couldn't extend my hand to greet him because he was barricaded from his visitors. So I started to talk to him. And as I talked to him, I thought he was in a free disposition physically, like the position I am in, only to discover at a later stage, he said, Dr. Zembe, I'm always in chains here. And he said, look, you know, I left ahead and looked down. What I saw, ladies and gentlemen, this is not theory. Let me practicalize it now, here. This is the size of the chain that I saw around his ankles, down after his 2 feet, and I was horrified because this size was around his legs in a maximum prison at Chikrubi. It's a dungeon prison dug right inside the belly of the earth. And then I got shocked because, yes, I had seen him in leg and hand irons, but thinner irons. But for this size, I got really shocked to this day. Now, this revelation made me actually begin to think heavily about it. And tonight, here, the launch of Advocate Job Sikala's biography, Footprints in the Chains, the life story of Job Sikala, is leading to a revelation that it is a sad, it is a horrible reading. We have had testimonies here. All of those testimonies were and are of maximum brutality, maximum cruelty, maximum persecution, maximum victimization in this country. And the perpetrators were the state agents, the government, perpetrating violence on one of his own. Advocate Job Sikala began his formal education in 1980, the year that we were supposed to be independent. So from 1980 to date, you can see the people of his generation were ill-treated. He's an epitome of resistance to dictatorship, resistance to torture. He's actually a torture survivor. And what it means is that there's been this destructive fit of anger by a government of a supposedly independent country for the life of Job Sikala as an adult, from the university in 1998 to death. He has suffered this cruelty, this brutality. So the human resource in our country has been decimated, destroyed, and it's going to take a long time to reconstruct our country. Yes. So the revelation is, before I move on to the National Democratic Working Group, is that here are testimonies that there is no rule of law in Zimbabwe. Yes. And there is rule of violence, yes, in Zimbabwe. Yes. Let me take you back to say that the epoch, the first epoch of violent rule was from 1890 in colonial Rhodesia to 1980. It was for 100 years the rule of violence by the state. In other words, institutionalized violence, institutionalized in the organs of the state. In other words, the government structure, supported by a ruthless constitutions that were never from the majority or from the people. So from 1990, we went for 37 years with the same rule of violence inherited from colonial regimes. That was for 37 years up to 2017. Then from 2017, 8 years later to date, the so-called second phase of the rule, 8 years. So if you take the 90 years from 1890 to 1980, you add 37 years, then you add the 8 years that the current regime was under the second or the current administration under Emerson Mnangagwa. You get a total of 135 years of rule of violence, rule of dictatorship, rule of torture. Let me take you to the current within just a minute. That on leaving Chikurupi Maximum Prison on 30 January in 2024, Advocate Sikhala had an idea that he informed this nation and the whole world. Here at the Sapes Trust Center, he held a State of the Nation address on the 8th of February in 2024. And he moved a motion to say that the struggle for democratic rule must continue. The struggle for rule of law must continue. And he seated an idea to go back to the people of this land and to ask them to express their problems and to state how the country should embark on a reconstruction process in terms of its management and governance. So on the 3rd of March in 2024, the National Democratic Working Group was launched, where Advocate Job Sikala is the chairman and the chief facilitator, facilitating Zimbabweans to sit around the table, discuss, and hammer out issues leading to the National Democratic Convention, where this nation shall decide on the way forward. And this is the current program that Advocate Job Sikala is leading. I'm the Northern Region Facilitator, and my brother Zenzo Komo is the Southern Region Facilitator of the National Democratic Working Group. And therefore, it's a clarion call on all Zimbabweans to think about discovering democracy and democratic rule and rule of law after 135 years of rule of violence and the rule of dictatorship, rule of torture, and rule of persecution. Thank you very much, Director. Thank you very much, Dr. Auraya Zembe. Thank you very much. It's 7:30, and we should be concluding in a short while. I've got very few, 2-3 speakers who are not going to be very long. I'm going to call the representative of the current SINASU as constituted to just say a few words.
Ahoy, my comrades, ahoy. Ahoy, my comrades, ahoy. It is an immense honor standing in front of you as the SINASU chapter chairperson, Commander P.C. Hardy. At this momentous launch of the book Footprints in the Saints, a profound exploration of the life of Comrade Job Sikala. Comrades and friends, SINASU is a radical militant organization
champions of human rights, fearless fighters of academic freedom, a symbol of resistance against oppression. Comrades and friends, we have seen Comrade Job Sikala facing arbitrary arrests and persecution, but his spirit was never broken. We thank you very much, Commander. Comrades and friends, as Franz Fanon aptly put it, each generation must, out of a relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfilling it or betraying it. Comrades, as students, we are not just the recipients of knowledge. We are agents of change. We want to be part of a revolution that will transform our educational systems. Comrades and friends, the struggle continues. Forward, comrades.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? Hello? You are seeing the presidential height is coming up. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, as your master of ceremonies, I'm supposed to listen to your requests. If they make sense, I entertain. If they don't, I use my limited discretion and dismiss them. There is a request that on the line, all the speakers that we've had tonight, we've mutilated gender. That is not correct. We had 4 female speakers lined up who sadly did not come, but for the purposes of making sure that there is a cocktail of speakers and to be a listening director of ceremonies, I shall use again the powers vested in me to call upon Madame Mene from Mashingo to give us her remarks. Just a minute.
Handisi kutaura nechirungu nekuti hamunzwi. Anogona chirungu yawamira apa, ini ndichataura nechamunonzwa. All the way from Masvingo. Ini nditori strongholder yemusangano. Ini ndinotobuda musangano. I'm a nurse by profession, ndochigona chirungu. But ndinoda kutaura neshona yamunonzwa. Amen. Vakati muri kuvairoko. Jenda muri kuvairoko. Jenda muri kuvairoko. Mukadzi. Mukatarisa chero muchechi vari mavanenge vari 4 vakadzi vari 25. Yes. Ndikunyebera varume. Muchechi vakadzi vanenge vari 30 varume vari 4. Radha kuti tauyawo. Mamuchiti dzvinyirira. Musangana mukadzi all the way from Masvingo. Itinobva kunobarwa. Takutaura chekwedu tobva kunobarwa. Tobva kunobarwa. Mukuru wedu, chief wedu. Mukuru wedu Job Sikala. Tinobva kunobarwa. Indotenda Mwari ndokuti ndinotaura nawo pafoni zuva rimwe narimwe. Kuti toita sei? Kuti zviti I'm a nurse but handina kana dhora. I'm a nurse but handina kana dhora. Ndinoshanda paMasvingo Provincial Hospital asi handina kana dhora. Saka matitirambe takadaro here. Matitirambe takadaro here. Matitirambe takadaro here. Musi ndichitobva kunaiti duty. Ndotoona chimuzvimbota zviya zvinenge 4. Handi zvinodira zvinoko ndakambozvionera. Ndikati ko zvimota zvinzi zvikavhurigwa zvinodira zvinovava. Ndikati zvodei zvikanzi vaJob Sikala vari mukoti paHigh Court. High Court yedu yeMasvingo iri pakati petown. haikoti yedu yemasvingo iri pakati petown vakandyara pandiri kuvada nekuti vanokwanisa kupinda mujeri baba nekuda kwedu kuti zviite kuti zvinake. Ina handina chandapiwa, but I drive my own car. Iri panze apa ndauya kuno kuHarare kumusangano kunolonja bhuku rababa vedu vaJob Sikala vakambisa mota mumasvingo nyika ikatinhira. Handisati ndakambozviona, but ndakazviona mumasvingo endakadzidza paBhinyai nepaHarare hai, but mota dzinofirita ndakadziona kumasvingo. Ndikati chii? Zvikanzi vaJob Sikala vari mukoti. Zvakandipa kuvada nekuti vakasimba ava havati jerika vakasiyana nevamwe vari vokuti mukanzenda imovhariwa vanotiza. Ava vakatoinda, ava vakatoinda. Ini ndakazviona handisi kuudzwa ndichitobva kubasa kunaiti ndokuona mota dzakazara mutauni. Ndikati mota idzi ndedzei? Zvikanzi dzinofirita zvinovava vaJob Sikala varunhu. Magora wandikata, thank you. Hatitangofanira kuti women's league hoye, gender hoye, vakadzi hoye.
And guys, I said we are winding up. We are winding up. We need to eat now. Guys, I tell you, just 2 minutes. Dag na Jeremiah Bamu. Dag na Jeremiah Bamu. The reason I called these two gentlemen is Dag is Job's friend. Jeremiah was my co-counsel in most of the matters. And he's Job's favorite lawyer. He was the voice of reason in all the case because lawyer and client can go mad, but Bamu was the voice of reason. I just want you to, one after the other, just a few remarks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to say all protocols observed. I would say, for me, Job Sikala has been one of the most difficult and challenging clients to represent. I'll say this with a straight face, because the first time when I represented him, I was barely 3 years out of law school. That's around 2011. And I represented him when he got arrested at St. Mary's police station. It was taken all the way to Mutare. And I followed him to Mutare. What I respected about him is, as young as I was and as old as he was, he's still very young. He listened to the advice that I gave him, and thankfully, he was acquitted in that matter. I then represented him when he was taken to Buera. You all know his cases about Buera. But my favorite moments when I represented him in Buera was at the indictment stage. He was asked by the magistrate, Mr. Sikala, what language should we use for the indictment purposes? And he stood up and said, Zulu, your worship. I did not know how to speak to him in Zulu, but I pretended to be a speaker of Zulu, and I don't know what I said to him, but we agreed and the processes went forward. And then from there, I think I've dealt with a number of cases for him. What I still respect about him is he is a man who listens when you give him correct legal advice. And is also a man who does not fear to tell you that the advice that you are giving me is wrong and I will not take it. But I don't know why Kumarison called me his favorite lawyer, because he would always tell me, Muningina, I want Harrison by my side. I think it's because one of the is Harrison.
Yes, Doc.
Away, my comrades, away! Away, my comrades, away!
I'm so filled with joy to be with all of you tonight and to see the celebration of my brother Job. Thank you, Munya, for this work, and to my Sikhala and all of those who stood with Job. It's a joyous occasion. I can see energy being injected into our struggle for freedom. I can see unity being built, and that encourages me. I think especially because my brother Job, I think I've seen you in some of your darkest moments. And so to see this moment of joy in contrast to those times, I remember visiting you one day in Chikurubi. I was there with my dad. And essentially my role, I think I was more of a pastor masquerading as a lawyer, getting in with a lawyer's card. But because many church leaders were too scared to visit Job, and those who did suffered serious persecution, I ended up essentially playing a pastoral role with Job, praying with him in his times of need. And I remember on one of those most darkest days where it seemed like it was hard to keep putting one foot in front of the other for him to keep going. We spoke together. And what I said to you that day, my brother, is that you need to have the long vision. Don't focus on the next day. Keep the long vision. And that's what you did. I saw that moment. From that moment on, you said to me, there's something that I've wanted to always do throughout my life, which I have never found the time to do. That's to read the Bible from cover to cover. And I remember that's what you began doing, and the shift that I saw take place in you. And so to now, in contrast to those dark days, see this joyous celebration gives me hope that indeed we will see a brighter day, just as we have seen in your life, you emerging from those very dark days. I do believe that we as a nation will emerge from this very dark chapter. And I hope and pray that each one of us will recommit ourselves this evening to play our part, just as our brother Job has done for so many years. So thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for all that you have done for this nation. And thank you, all of you, for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have our last speaker, but this man is very important.
Yeah.
I wish we had made him the first speaker. We were not advised that he was amongst us. He is the man who took Job out of puberty. The man who taught him at Masungunye Secondary School. And we are so delighted that Mr. Dambuza is with us here. Over to you, sir.
It's so belittling, so humbling. I've never been at a church like this one, where we have got the greatest minds converging. The director of ceremonies, the guest of honor, His Excellency and Carmen Absentia, all protocol observed. My address will be directed to Job Sikala. I have questions that I'll ask him. He will not answer, or perhaps you might answer some other time. I just want to bring him back to where he actually came from. I knew him as a tall, lanky boy. And my first question, at secondary school, he was the chief librarian at the school. He had actually transferred from 2 other schools. And the final destination for his secondary education up to Form 4 was Masunguye Rural J Secondary School on the borders of Bikita and Mashinga. Job Sikala was a voracious reader. And members of his class, the majority of them, did not want to share a book with Job. The reason, the mythical reason behind it was that if Job took a book to read, everything in that book will get in Job's coconut and there'll be nothing left on the pages of the books that you would have read. You remember that. Number two, Job had empathy. He felt pity. He hated brutality. He never wanted to see people either necessarily or unnecessarily being brutalized. I remember one time, during those times, some people call them the good old days, but for some, me, a teacher, at that time, was also one who was very generous with the use of the stick. But there was this other time when Job was traveling more than 20 kilometers one way, another 20 kilometers the other way. That day it was winter, it was cold, and quite a number of the learners came late. Then the people were being lined up and beaten. From Norway, Job came, do you still remember, grabbing that stick and throwing it over the rooftop of the administration block. It was a shock, something that had never been heard of. He ran away. But surprisingly, the next day, he was the first person to arrive at the school, going to the teacher's house and apologizing.
Thank you.
Number three, Job, when punished, would not get angry if he knew he was wrong. He would finish the punishment in half the time the punishment is intended. And sometimes he would have his friends, the Vomorai, the Obed Shumpas, etc., joining him. And he would coin a song. Teach yourself is our motto. Teach yourself. As a protest to teachers who would have taught what you would not have understood. Job never wanted to be flattered. At one time, I answered that and gave him a 27 out of 30. I was very stingy with maths in my essay marking. And then he came to me and said, "Sir, 27 out of 30 is not realistic. I want my real mark." I had to do a remark, and I gave me 25, and they said it is better. But that essay actually deserved a 28 out of 30.
Yes.
Job did not like teachers who waffled. I remember him telling one teacher that, "Say, don't you think if you could stop waffling now and start teaching us, we would be able to listen better?" He is that type of person who kept us teachers on their toes. Then he might have said things at the university, but at the school, he is someone who would never ambush a friend or even a teacher.
Yes.
He would use this expression, "Ndinokusodesa." Ndinokusodesa. In the Zulu, may say, "Ndinokunyadzisa." Or perhaps in English, you say, "I will belittle you." Okay. "I will degrade you. I will humiliate you." Whenever I knew he was right, he never wanted anyone to step on his toes. Then I remember one day again when he hid a book. They are what you call the yellow notes, where a teacher was using a book. Job discovered it. When he discovered that this teacher was taking notes word for word, he hid that book in the library where he was chief. And that 1 week he never learned. Then he also, during those formative years, there was Zobo and there was the former president, RG. They would argue with the friends and say, now, who was better than the other? I remember Job saying, "Zobo, he has got that extra something." I don't know what that extra something is, which he meant. Job, perhaps you know. That was the answer that he gave. And then I said, he was a voracious reader. You would read what you call the word parade, word motto, and he loved the cartoons for DJP, was it, etc., etc. Then He also enjoyed protest literature. At his early age, with the African writer series, yes, where he would read Tiongo, Marechera, Musa Zimunya, and others, while you see the rest enjoyed page setters. And there were others besides the page setters, which the others read. But you would ask for novels from teachers. I remember one day when I gave him a novel, and I said, no, this is too high for you. Then he said it wasn't. Then I said, I want this book. You give me after 4 days. But he gave it to me after 2 days. Then I said, now, tell me what you read. And I surprised myself. He surprised me. He summarized that book and showed that he understood what he had read. And then the t-shirt example. I don't know where he picked the ZP, with the ZIP, what is Zimbabwe Integrated Party, Dr. or Professor Zinodliwe, etc. I don't know where he got it. And the Zoom one, you would get onto the stage when the learners were going home, and you open the shirt, and then there was Zoom there, and he would slogan near. I think you'll never forget that day, because he was beaten, and he agreed to be beaten, surprisingly. Someone said that they never saw Job's tears. I saw them. I was a coach, his coach in the volleyball team. And this day, he wasn't my best player, and I was sort of strict. So I said, now, Job, I'm putting you on reserve. That didn't go quite well with him. The lorry was full. We're using lorries. Pete, your lorry is the guitar there. And then Job, in his helplessness, in a state of helplessness, he cried. And when the lorry was about to go, he began to fight the lorry, beating the lorry, the metal leg of the lorry. And they felt pity for him. Some of the last felt pity for him. They lifted him up. There was nowhere to sit. He was just on top of the rest of the other players, of the other students, until he squeezed himself in, and we went. When we came back, he was the hero, because when he played, his last spike, Juice advantage, and we won. Job came back, he won. Now, Job was fearless. He was forthright. He was, should I say, hard as they come. And he was very, very intellectual, very, very bright, fiercely bright. He was also sportive, but bohemian, unconventional, we should say, sometimes, but positively so. And he always pushed boundaries, and he's still pushing boundaries. That's what he is, and I don't think anything can change him. He always stands for what he thinks is right. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dad. Hello. Guys. I normally want order. Thank you very much, Mr. Dambuza. You know, this man's speech touches my heart. These are the people who make us who we are. These are the people who make doctors, lawyers, professors, and everything. Yet, the recognition in the chain of life is very minimum. Another round of applause for Mr. Dambuza. Hi, guys, I told you, I'm a businessman. I did this book for 200. Now I'm auctioning it.
How much?
Yes, it's business.
For how much?
$1,000 I take. $1,000 I take. Any takers at $1,000? It's got the signatures for all these guys. 800. I got down. 800. I want to make some bit of money. 800, 750. Wait, Nyaras. Anyway, I'll reserve it.
Go higher. Why?
I said 1,000.
Why?
I'm not auctioning. If you're first, you have to remain up. Then I put up the price. $1,000 I take. 750. 750. Any takers? Any takers? So 750. 800. 750. 800 I take. Any takers? 800. 1, 2, 3. My book, Connie.
Taken.
At 750. How much profit? $550. Your name, sir?
Thank you so much, Director of Ceremonies. How are you? I'm Taurai Kandisha. No, I'll count it for you. I'm Taurai Kandisha, the President for Africa Youth Congress, as well as Deputy National Political Commissar of ZANU-PF Youth League. My reason for buying this book is just to show you that money has no color. And if it comes, nobody denies it. Of course, at times we might be called Gananda money. I'm buying it with $750. Thank you. I've increased it from 750 to 760. Thank you.
Professor Mandasa, thank you very much for giving me some advice. I bid it for 200.
Yes.
Now I've got 760.
Yes.
So $560 profit.
Exactly.
Come and get your book, my brother. The one that has been signed by everyone, including myself, not the one that you. The signature right here.
Yes. Thank you.
Right. And then somebody else. All right, guys, I think we are coming to the tail end of our program. I think all the powers that are vested in me are now going to go away. Allow me to call to the podium the subject matter of the book to say some remarks centered around vote of thanks. Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies.
Yes.
For having conducted the business of the day with such astute talent. I thought always that you are good in court.
Yes.
As my defense lawyer, together with Jeremiah Pamu. But I've noticed that you are also very good in terms of conducting functions of this magnitude.
Yes.
Before I start thanking everyone and giving salutations,
Yes.
there is something which all the speakers here today missed, which is very important in our country. I am happy that nyangwe zvikananda zviri pano nhasi. Ndoda kuti zvinzwe shoko iri. Mafumisi anyu muzukuru wangu anga abhidha bhuku rake ne 200 mukamufumisa. Atofuma kutodarike zuve nebhuku uyu. Today is the date of the 27th of June. A date that reminds us of horrible things that happened in our country in the year 2008, where hundreds and hundreds of citizens of our country were massacred during the popular Robert Mugabe's one-man race. Many people were tormented on the countryside, where long sleeve and short sleeve became the slogan of the oppressors. So this is the day we have thought to launch this very important book. I am happy that our ZANU-PF member who has come here has bought the book. I want him to go and read this book with an open mind and reflect on things that have been done to other human beings like him. I would advise you to go and tell your principals and your colleagues there. It is not a crime not to be ZANU-PF. It's not a crime. People must be allowed to do and to be what they are and what they want. Period.
Yes.
The 27th of June reminds several Zimbabweans of the difficulties they met in this country for simply rejecting ZANU-PF as a political alternative in this country. People were murdered. And this is the day we are launching this book.
Yes.
In the future, which I want to promise you today here, this country is going to be free.
Yes.
In a free Zimbabwe, we are going to have 2 additional public holidays.
Yes. Additional. Yes.
There shall be a public holiday called the Kukura Memorial Day, where we will remember all people and citizens of this country who died because of their political beliefs between 1980 and 1987. We shall have a public holiday where we will remember those people who perished because of their political beliefs. So that those people who perpetrated cruelty against this people, against other citizens of this country, even if they are dead, their bones will not get peace for the evil which they have committed against our people. There shall also be the June 27 Memorial Day in our country to remember thousands of our people who suffered in this country for their political beliefs, because they voted Morgan Tsvangirai to be the president and the MDC to be the government in this country. Many people suffered in this country because of their political beliefs. All this nonsense of saying we are embarking on a national reconciliation crusade and program to deal with the issue of Gukura will not work. We want a national Gukura Wound Memorial Day.
where we will remember those who passed on. Those 2 public holidays are coming. 27 June is going to be a public holiday. I'm going to talk with my colleagues. Launch has united all of us. The diabetes here. Is here. You know, my brother Charlton Wende is here. Zambia becomes happy when they see us fighting each other, but when they see us together like this, they feel angry. There is nothing that will separate all of us. Dr. Zembe is here. And those who even traveled as far as from South Africa. Sezongomo is here. He traveled all the way from South Africa to come and witness this very important event. It has managed to unite all of us. We might hate each other as Zimbabweans, but for what? You know, sometimes I ask myself some very important questions. For what? For what? Yes. Can I you know this on it as I cannot? So the most important thing is that as we drive forward on the struggle for a free and democratic society in our country, we must always remember what happened in the past. This book will reveal quite a lot of things. Those people who have been in the trenches fighting against the dictatorship that have been installed in our country since 1980 to present, 45 years. There are 3 people whom I want to come here in the front for you to know them. There is a man who has traveled from my village in a good called Moses Marukutira. Then there is a young man called Dread Mushawatu is here. Come here. Now Dambuza. You see this man in a suit. Abakumusha is a farmer, very rich Kumusha. He was my childhood friend. When we were growing up together, you shall find a very funny story. Muyekerao, mubuku medu. Matakatora huku dzamai vedu, zana mai vedu kutengesa tine 16 years. Kuti ande kuHarare muna 1998 toda kunoona ndavani ngistole kanzwa kuti ari kudzoka kubva kuAmerika. Tisina mari takati hashamari yatibati yokudzana mai titengese vasipa vatinde Harare kunotakura ndavani ngistole. Tiri kuti vana zvitoko kudai. When we have been inspired by the revolution, because we noticed what has happened between 1980 to 1987. We noticed with ZANU-PF, hapana kwatinosvika. So this man was always with me. And usually he likes to come, he liked to come and achirara mumba kwedu Sterek Mozo. So takarara mumba taitaura politics kusvika kwaidza. Maybe don't get name me. Inda munotsvaka basa kuHarare munokona kutaura zvinhu munopinda nepolitics munotaura muno. Yes. Mai vangu vachiti tinamborara vakomana taura politics. This is my friend Moses. Yeah. So I thank you, Moses, for coming all the way from home kubva kumusha to come and grace this important occasion. May God bless you. Ondodzokera kumusha kuti ndakanokona kuHarare. Vanhu vari kufara. There is this young man you see here. Who is with me here? Muri kumuona here meso. Anonzi Mushawatu. Yes, name yako ndiani?
Atmo Mushawat, Wati, Kujera Kangane Mbiri Okonzi Great. This young man was with me at Kinchkurut Maximum Prison. 595 days. I was with this young man in the solitary confinement. But I karakma condemn clones go a hole, Quagara, Nengava, Mega, Wakuzi, Kushnet descendants, Boko Aikara, Wakuno, Kurakmakalos. So when I saw him in prison, why Garam Rumani 3? In Garam Ruman, Garam Room 4. I got a room 3. In Garam Room 4. Yes. I think you see this young man. Simbara kero kwa doka ukarusumza. Hapo nikusumza Mike. Anga kandwa mjere. Anye perwa. I adopted him to be my son in prison. Yes. When I adopted him as my son in prison, I got chikafu. Shanga chakanaka kudarika generosity every day. Every day I know what I go in my so I dakachengeta mudingina wangu. Until period kuti makore ake akanga achajwa akanga akapiwa 7 years in prison mfano. Aigona kuchigezesa, aigona kubika na kufamba kana every morning vaitomuka achitosunzwa nomwe mfana atanga tatoita allocate chitino ndokubhadhara nesipu neshuga neekera ndo mari dzinojerekezo ndokupa shuga sipu every week yokuti uchidya uchiguta kuti achengete mukomana aizani mukomana uya kubva kuchinouya forget. I forget. Akachengeta mukomana uyu is a prison when we have been taken care of everything about it. What kind of a country that does not have mercy to have a person who cannot even able to raise his hand in prison for 7 years? But me able to arepa. Pano mkazi shuwa. Akabatwa nokuyikunekwa simbarake robo rwake arugoni kana kusumudza kana Mike. Ndakarumata sonkati this is lies. Mukadzi mukuru onzi abatwa arepiwa nomwana. Akagara muchere mukomana akazopiwa amnesty asarwa nezvimwe zvishoma shoma zviya zviya zvokuzi awasarwa nemashoma chikudondo. The people's government tomorrow will never have mweya weshina wokutumira vana vasina mhaka kujere vakaita sevana. That was cruelty of the highest order. That's why I adopted him in prison as my son. Hapana chakashaya akarya akaguta. Saka ndoda ngoti I am happy you have come here munina wangu ati chingotaura hapo 2 words.
Okay. Ndonzo kufara. Le bokudonji. One has. Ndakaona mararamo aita mudhara drinkard. Malaizi aitaurwa each and every day vaiti vakabva kukoti kwenzi kwouya imwe mhosva. Imwe yacho yaparwa vari mujeri. Vari vaita ngonzo kwaita mhosva kwakati vachinzi vanga varipo but ivo vanga vari mujeri. How much lies aibuda mupisa our government. So ndanga ndinawo nguva yavakararama vari mujeri ndichizobudawo kukoti ndaenda ndinovaona ndara vedu vakandiona vanga vasina basa kuti panani kana kuti majistrate vari kutaura mukoti vaitanga kutaura vese vari pamusoro ndozvavari saka vaizopoiwa honorable majistrate varikase vakasiita nekoti but ndakafarira lavhu yavo
kubva ndiri mujeri kusvika up to now. Hatina zuva ratisingatauri. Ndakanzi ndaspenda even 24 hours ndisina kutaura navo. Vanondinyorera. Chii asi warwara here? It shows so much care kwandiri kubva ndiri mujeri up to now. So nobody, thank you, Dad.
Thank you very much, Atwell. Ndopenyu hwatairarama naye mukomana ari musolitary confinement kwatanga tiri koko kuti marooms vanogariswa uri wega kudai. Ndinotenda chinda yenyu munomuzosira ndichakuona ndisati ndaenda dread wondimirira ndoda kuona usati waenda. Toda kutenda. We want to thank His Excellency President Kama for having graced this occasion. And I think all of us, we heard his speech. The way how he is passionate. Why was President Kama our choice as the guest of honor? He is the only person who stood with the people of Zimbabwe when they were under persecution in 2008. This 27 June episode, Yagatwa Mugabe, President Kama was the only president who would come out and condemn what was being done to the people of Zimbabwe. So he is the friend of the people of Zimbabwe. That's why we invited him. Initially, the person who was supposed to be our guest of honor is the Secretary General of the South African Communist Party, Anonsi Solima Paila. But we argued that no, Comrade Soli, we will call you to other events. I think Kuplawayo, he will be one of our international guests if things goes well. But to that President Kababawe, because 27 June reminds us of the sad moments Zimbabweans have gone through. And like what I told you, I promise this day is going to be a public holiday to commemorate human rights abuses that have gone in our country, so that generations to come will remember the evil that has been perpetrated against our people. We should never forget the evil and the bad that happened in our country. I know Chipakira Mangwana, Chipopota, Baba Chituka, Job Sikala, there must be a Gugura Wound Memorial Day. It shall come. My woman, Wangasna Maka, Lokuatronda. That evil has to be commemorated and remembered in the history of our nation. To say, during the period of madness, when we were under the governance of a dictatorship, our people suffered unprecedented murder and assassinations for no any crime except belonging to different political organizations. So that our children and the generations to come will remember this great day. So we thank President Kama for accepting to be our guest of honor today. I also would like to thank representatives from different embassies who have been here. I saw the Canadians were being represented, they brought their book. The British were represented, they brought their book. I saw the ambassador from Netherlands was here. They brought the book. The Americans were also represented, they also brought the book. So, and many others. I can't remember the others that I saw, but these are the first specific ones that I saw. But I hope others are also here. We thank them for gracing this very important occasion. I would like to thank our colleagues who have come here, who have got a shared history with me in the long political journey that we traveled for a long time. Vashamisa, Vabiti, Vawende, Magwetangu, Vana,
vana Bamu, mukomana kuti tsunga ndavaona, Mai Mikkels, mukazi vamuchadama gweta rangu riri pano, mudzimai wava Mikkels, Thomas Mikkels vange vari pano vatenga mabhuku executive copy nemamwe matatu ndo vaita the largest buyer panapa. Ngativauchire Mai Mopson. Mai Mopson vange vari pano. Ndotenda civic society organizations, taona madirectors avo nevamwe vaningi navangu nasu vauya pano. Tokutendai mudharazembe matuba nomuzukuru wangu panapa kuzivi mudhara ndimi makapfurira musekuru wangu vati vadukuduku imi muchiwadzisa politics, but we thank you for the wisdom that you taught us. Mutenda ticha vangu vadhambuza all the way kubva pasi kuzaka vadhambuza vamana vachitaura all the way from Zaka. You know, my teacher who taught me in Form 4 kwamazungunyo ngatiuchire vadhambuza maoko vanhu vamwana. We thank you vadhambuza. Totenda Vangomo Sezongoma travel all the way from South Africa to come and to be with us here. We thank you. Totenda mudhara vangu vanomudhara vangu anondida zvisingaiti, and that old man believes in me too much. Zvokuti nyangwe zvikanzi tada kufamba pati tinosara tinenge tichingwa vanhu tichingoti mudhara tiri kuso. Mudhara wangu is driven all the way from Rusaka, anonzi Valentine's Ziswa, a very prominent and eminent farmer. Headlands. That is why we welcome. We thank you for taking this sacrifice for you to take the burden of traveling all the way from Rusaka. Dr. Ndai Makwanisa kuya pano nhasi and make this event a very magnificent event. I never thought kuti vanhu vachazara kudai. I never thought so. And this is amazing. Vamwe vatodzokerawo, but vazhinji vanga vakamira vachitoda kuzonzwa Job Sikala vacho vachitaura. So I thank all of you who braved kutonhora kwakadai kusvika mamira kusvika opportunity yangu yokuzopa vote of thanks yasvika. Others nyange vaenda kudzimba tinovatenda, but you have come in your numbers. It's a statement that you don't support oppression of other people. Ndotenda vakomana Munyarati Angelo Savana ndo vapanhu vandituka vandafuta mujeri nedzunguzo Sikhala vasvitemba ndiso zvino nhasi ndakazomupanika auya kumba kwangu ndakatotora project yaitwa there were three people who wanted to do this project. One ndomwe anonzi Professor Constantine Manda from Tanzania, ari California University uko. When he met me at the Africa Democracy Summit some few months after coming out of prison, I can't know what kind of we want to record your biography. California University is interested kuti vanyore bhuku renyu. But condition yakazoripa yekuti munofanira kuti what we do is we are going to make an arrangement. Momboya mombogara kuCalifornia for 1 year, 6 months. Tikati varume ava kurove bhuru sure ndakapedza 2 years ndiri mujeri when my family and my wife were missing me. Ndotora zvedzimwe 1.5 years ndiri kuAmerica. Plus ndizvogara kunze kwenyika kuya handidi nokuti ndoda nyika yangu.
saka nyangwe makanzwa ndanofumure chokwadi kugeneva vakati Sikhala akadzoka toda kumuponda ndakadzoka ndikandipondei because I don't have any other hope except Zimbabwe. Handina imwe nyika kunze kweZimbabwe. So handizvidi kugara kuziva nyika zvina ndonakirwa neZimbabwe yedu ndiri musandi maisi mangu nditaura nechembere dzangu nembuya dzangu dzinotambura imomuya. I feel the fullness of happiness in life. What we only need and deserve in life is happiness and the things that gives you peace of mind. So ndakavarambira ivavo nobva kwazviya zvemwangu webhuru wangu anonzi wanengidiyo ari kuaustralia akati no mwana wamai ngatite project vandikati uri kure how would you research and understand zvinhu zvacho zvakaikira kozi namumwe andisingatautiriza uri kuzingatiramba pakazviya mufana wangu akati mukoma sori tingatiri vamwe vakakutukai mabude mujere tichikusvibisai tichiti musvibe ndikati wow ndikati chinyora bhuku chinichenesa kuti nokuti wakanga uchinisvibisa uri kuzatotaro and now he has come with the book for him to understand me better he had to make a research about it. So we thank you, young men. Very diligent. You worked on timeline. And as I told you to know, if you are not able to catch 27 June, the day we will have to remember those people who suffered and died in this country because of Mugabe's need to maintain dictatorship in this country. Akati nomukoma toibata timeline yacho achakamanya-manya. Ndakazvionawo Mkomari Joyce vapinda vakati ndapinda. I'm interested in this project and then they are the ones who have produced the product that we are all gathered here for. Let's clap for hands for these guys. Ndaona mashumba chikukwa arimo mubhuku mangu uyo ana mazheve ari papo uyo ari pakona mashumba hati munoziva ndabuda mujere pandakabuda ndisina nasonzwa zvakanaka muziva because kugariswa mwena uri wega so haurarami zvakanaka muri kuzwisa ndaenda kunze mukomana yakanditumira audio so yaakanga atumirwa nomwe muchinda anonzi Mashita so ari kuSouth Africa chite wamona kauyawo kuti ndakudza kuti ndabuda mujere anofa chunda yakamupedzeraka anonzi Mashita so arimo mubhuku mangu ndakafumura mashoko ake akashata akataura pamusoro pangu ukushuvira kuti ndife ndichiti ndaudzwa nevemashumba kuti ndiwo vakanditumira audio yacho handirevi nhema so kana mukarovana kwakorova naye ndataura chokwadi so ndinofara mashumba ndakuona wanzwa zvimwe uramba uchiwisa ndopedzisira nokutenda you know there were some of the touching statements that were coming here. I really got touched nespeech yataurwa namukoma Tendai nomunin'ina wangu Nelson naDad Coltart. You know, sometimes there are things which we don't say in life, but things that have kept us going in, you know. Ukava nomukadzi anokuhwisisa mukore uno unonesa kuroora uno tenda Mwari. Kuwana mukadzi anohwisa nhamo nedambudziko rako. You know, I have been arrested more than 70 times. Ndichishungurudzwa gore rimwe tikatochwa zvokusvika pakuparara nokupiswa zvinozvarisa vana zvacho izvo zvisi kuita kutsemurwa nomoto namagetsi pakapita muna 2003 ndikazonoraramira kuDenmark kunze kwenyika.
asi mukadzi wangu haana kundisiya. Kuna vamwe vanoti mushawavirwa namatambudziko kana murume washungurudzwa vanotiza. But my wife remained resilient. So I thank you. Sometimes that's why it's not good to for years now. Because of the love that she gives me, I have to honor and respect it. If you are not able to respect your wife for the great things that she does for you, what's wrong with the husband? Yes. So I thank you for standing with me during the periods of my trials and tribulations. Nevana vangu varipo panapa ndinokutendai mauya kuzowitness this event. You know, it's a journey that I've traveled. For the coming 1,000 years, I want the people of my country, Zimbabwe, to continuously be able to read this book for them to know what has been happening in their nation. And finally, Professor Ibomandas. Rumkoma wedu tinorashika tichidini asi tinongodzoka kwamuri. Your love that you have shown in supporting this project every time when they've been planning everything and so forth, it's amazing. You supported this project from the beginning up to the publication. And also by simply providing us this venue. Prof, you have showed that you are a man. I thank you with all my heart for that. Chairman, it's also the man who has been running this project. We are part of Giza. Giza, come here. The man who bankrolled this project, who has been pumping his money on daily basis. He looks young but married. You know, we are not going to So we thank you, Giza, for the logistical support that you have been doing in funding this program up to this project up to now. Vangomo, Wetarang, Musukuru wangu futu, chai. Ukandiri wako na hanofuma, ale munangachi kureva pano, pa bolero pana. Pano sekuru, munuzisa wanotara. Akuna, him and me and him, our blood will never be separate. Because musukuru wangu chai. You have been fantastic in terms of providing us the leadership today as the master of ceremony. Diva, you connected us to President Kama. Otherwise, we were not going to be able to receive the address from President Kama. I did not know this technician and the guy who is seated there called David Mpo. He has done us some very good job for him to do all the technical work and so forth. Security, I thank you. Very good. Thanks for the good job. Tawaona yesterday, Masia wari muno, Matinzwa, Manzwa, Pakuma politics, na vamaona polisi vanga muri muno, asi hapana, Moshe aparwa. Nhasi tanga chingopemberera chinyi, kubuda kwebhuku iri. Mwari not forgetting the talented young man Tinotenda Swanda who gave us an amazing poem. The young girl has really shocked all of us. All the speakers were now beside Daniel Molokela, my best friend for many years. He has been here. It's true. We traveled a long journey. And all the people who spoke here did not tender for gracing this occasion and take it to be your own event. Namashoko iwaya, Mwari ngavatitire nyasha, tidzokere. Takukumbira prophetess. Pana prophetess waya pana. Because nondo vari kuita take care. Yomkomana uyu wamaona mshawatu actual mshawatu kwana pana mamona. Ndo watoya naye. Prophetess waya pano. Prophetess waya mutipe mnyengetero kuvhara. Mupe vanhu nyasha vadzokere kumba chiropo fast. Waya prophetess. Vari pano prophetess. Zvokwadi ndingarohwa naMwari neshamu. Ndingarohwa naMwari neshamu. Ndikasatenda Bishop Vukile Dada. Vativhurira nesermon ne-opening prayer. Bishop Mwari akuitire nyasha. Very powerful message. Thank you very much for being our spiritual father today by giving us that enriched sermon and also a prayer you gave us to open the prayer. We want the prophetess to give us the closing prayer. My executive copies. Executive copies I papa ana mazina enyu uyai mutore ma executive copies enyu do signer ma ordinary copies ari kutengeswa kubva kune papa futi aripo. Executive copy yaitengwa ne$100, ordinary copy is $50. This copy will be available here mulibrary pano Pastoral Trust. Those who would want to buy kana vachakubvunza ari bhuku richawanikwa kupi vazive kuti kuSAPES nokupi futi taura kumwe muningina unoda kutengesa bhuku
neku-innovate mashops ese innovate anenge aine bhuku irori Footprints in the Chains. Asi kana prophetess apedza kutinamatira tichange tichiimbirwa naMaskiri naTererai naPauline tichibuda.
Tinoatenda Maskiri naPauline. Pane chimbo chandakanzwa chavakandimba mune musikanzwa vanemi muchachiona vachachiuya uchiridza pana paMaskiri naPauline. Ndakatongonzwa nomufanira kuti hapana vanhu maartist anokufarira vanenge vachibuda. So next week Friday tinondolonja kuBulawayo Club. Maichisamba mabvaBulawayo vari papi maichisamba somudzaroko. Siyabonga mama. Ngazwa kuti lakambekali. Siyabonga. Inkosi ibusiswe. Tinokutendai mama nokuuya kwenyu. Mazvita prophetess chiuya mutivharire nomunyengetero. Ndinokutendai nokuchengeta mwana wangu. Murambe muchimuchengeta musamurasha mazvizwa. Mazvita prophetess.
Thank you so much. Hallelujah. Nditendere nomukana wandapiwa nahonorable kunge ndichinge ndichiri panzvimbo pano. Asi chekutanga ndinoda kutenda Mwari nekuti hanzi zvinhu zvose zvinogonekwa naShe handizvigonetoka. Shoko raMwari rodaro kuna mapisarema 127 roti murindi weguta pasineni anorindira pasina. Zvekare muvakakaida kuvaka guta pasineni anovakira pasina. Saka ndoda kutenda Mwari kuti tarinda tinavo pakutanga. Tapedza zvekare nawo tinokutenda zvekare tinyasha dzeIshe Jesu Kristu wedu dzichatichengeta patakudzokera mukati medzimba. Ngatisvike pachakutsamisa uswa tichinyengetera. Kuna Mwari makatendeka mutsvina waIsraeri. Ndakuvongai
nenyasha dzakadai dzezuva ranhasi ramatunganidza sevana vezimbabwe tiri kuonga nekutenda nekuti vanharaunda yakafambwa nemuranda wenyu mwari wenyasha ndimakamusanangura nekuti utungamiriri unobva kudenga ubve pano panyika ndinoonga nekutenda nekumusimbisa murwendo rwakadai ndinoonga nekutenda nekubata kusikomaita basa rose kune vatanga mwari wamatsotsi vapedzisira kune vakaita basa rirose vakava nekukontributa mabatiro aisa maoko enyu varopafadzei mutsvena wavaisraeri ropafadzei umwe neumwe atsikira tsoka dzake pano nekuti it is you God who have ordered our feet. We thank you Holy Spirit, thank you Yamashia Yeshua. You are worthy and you are praised in the name of Jesus. Ndatenda madekwanani shiva inesu patakubva pano shoko rainoda runa Deuteronomy 28 tinokuropafadza uchipinda muguta tinokuropafadza uchibuda tinokuropafadzai tsoka dzomumwe nomwe mochengetedza utungamiri hwese huri pano zamara tisvike mukati memasuo edu nezita raJesu Kristu Nazareti akafa akamuka anotenda wese ngati ameni.
Let us say.
ndichandisa chapuku masomo kuti ndichaine ndagara najesu musoro bvudza mutema kwene ndinoona namwari kanda all right. Kana kuita zvaitwa kudhara zvokutumana nomuita chingwa mutii handina kumupiwa nefacebook kana whatsapp pasi ndikamupiwa namwari semunhu anodya sadza kubva kwene wakabva waita kushamwari ndakafamika mukabudzi kanoshandisa handina kuita basa nezvemari munoziso ndinawo nenge nyono dzavada kuita nekutomuka kwandikaita anoprotect God say never go to the my heart amen. Sorry. Andre, Kandura. All right, send the video file with slide. All right. What do you say? Yo. Ndaramba kunyorerwa matsamba ndikaone kutaura ndokakama sacharamba ndakamborora klara akagara pangu pamba aidiki sadza kudya vana vachifa nenzara vakazorora zvodzwa aitaura chindivere aiti adye matemba achiema pengepwere munozviziva here aindinetsa pamba pangu aisagona aina hembe akapisa jiri rake ndakazorora kuruwa ainge ane makova ndakazorora tsitsi anga asina tsitsi aita kunyengererwa chinitambisira chinorokisa musoro chinotengera maruva achimupa chibhazi 20 gradis yanezi kana ndiyo best wangu wakiinaita here
All right, Shino Akita, DJ, Bible say, come and drop, Angelo, Giza, yeah. Balloon, oh, Terry, Terry, yeah, got those zero. All right.
Mount Zion classic music. Remix.
I want to put a song, never let the phone get follow. It's a car of dreams, I'm car. Who get it in the new one? It's a good day, make it.
Iko aya kawagatita, dafunga kutu kaderamba, lengo zila nina, lindo takuja binoma,
I kids that come in from the take come in the paper and they get set. If I'm still in the money, take place. It's a new thing, we from the Wednesday isn't. Rock and Dita, you see the kind of food, now we hit the fast and we see the Dita Nasi, Rama Mango, we can find my body, never face it. We're going to walk out the beast on the bed, they can go to flex on the stick from the aprons and traffic. I spend cross, what they hit you for? They give us 6 steps to a country, get 7 cross. From the highway, you're warning, the first one of sight, you can't stop a day.